Hi everybody, Rob Bernholz here from Absolute Motion Graphics. Today I want to talk about one of the filters that is in the BCC 10 Boris Continuum Complete 10 collection. It's a pretty extensive collection, as you know. In fact, if we just type BCC in my filter list here in Premiere, we can scroll through and you can see how many hundreds of filters this comes with. So we'll just close that for the moment. Now I'm going to show you a way to make a transition wipe that you can save or render out and keep for later. That is pretty cool, and clearly it's not what the plugin was initially designed for, but it gives you some different thinking of how to apply filters in different ways just to keep life interesting. To begin with, I have a bin here of clips that I've imported. Kind of scroll through these. Downloaded all of these from Pond 5. Got them when they had one day a promo where these clips were free as samples. So let's find a clip to start with. Here we go. We've got some here in the preview window. Got some taxi cabs. That's pretty good. Let's just start by making a sequence right with that. I'll just drag that here and boom, we have a sequence with that one clip. Now, if I'm going to create some kind of a transition effect with a filter today, let's get another clip that we can cut to. Let's see, there's a butterfly, new, some Christmas gifts. That's good. Scroll through this. That's perfect. Let's just drag that onto another video track right here in the middle of our taxi cabs. Okay, let's zoom in our timeline. Take a look what I have. I have cabs. I have Christmas gifts. So basically we already have a story in place. Look, we are in our cab and we're going to buy a gift. So there we go. Or maybe that gift is in one of those cabs. Oh, so much mystery. Now what I want to do though is I'm going to take the Boris Array 3D, Particle Array 3D effect, and let's search for that. Type in array, and it shows up here in my effects list. Now, I'm not going to apply this effect directly to my footage here. Instead, let's go back to my project window, and I'm going to create a new color clip. It's color matte here in Premiere. Just say OK. The color doesn't matter. Let's say kind of a yellow. Doesn't matter. Say OK. And I'm going to take this clip, drag it over my two clips, and this will be my transition. I'm going to apply the effect, BCC Particle Array, to the color matte. Now let's see what happened. We clearly don't see any kind of a transition happening here. What we see is up here in the program window. In fact, I'm going to close my source window for now, just to make this easier to see. What we see is the default of the Particle Array 3D filter. It's basically a cube filled with tiny spheres. The way I came up with this effect, though, was just exploring through the plugin itself. So let's take a look at some of its controls. Let's go to the effects controls. Let me widen that out a bit again. And we'll step through some of the parameters I used to make this effect. The Particle Array 3D filter, the controls are actually very, very deep. This is a very dense filter. It can do so much. If you open up any of these little twirly arrows here for these subheadings, you can see there's lots of controls built in. We're just going to touch on a few of them. So we have the render controls. We'll leave all of this in its default for the moment. The built-in lights has a checkbox on or off. And this is pretty interesting because the Particle Array 3D filter has its own camera and 3 lights in it. Now, here in Premiere, I don't have separate cameras or lights that I can add to a scene, so I will use the built-in light switch. But say in After Effects, when you use this filter, it can address and access the After Effects camera and the After Effects lights in addition to its own lights. For the moment, let's keep that on here. Now the particles section. Now in the particles, this determines what kind of particles we have. The default are 3D spheres. But you see, if we go through, we can make them planes, we can make cylinders. You can change them to lines. There's a way to make horizontal lines, vertical lines, grid lines, so they're all connected. That's pretty cool. Um, Cubes, all kinds of shapes. There's also the image collection, and this is where, as for particles, you can access this list of pre-rendered TIFF shapes, and you can change them. Here are some gears, and you can make your particles any of these images. That way it's easy to make smoke or clouds or fire, other typical applications of a particle effect. For today, I'm going to just make these 3D planes. Now, these don't look particularly exciting. It's just a array of flat gray squares sitting on top of my taxi cabs. So let's make this into something a little bit better here. First of all, let's deal with the color. I don't want just gray, so I'm going to choose a layer random selection from the particle color, meaning I can randomly pick colors from any particular layer and assign them to the various particles. So in this case, the default is it's taking the color of the color mat, which is greenish yellow. But if I say here color layer, I can pick any layer I want to take the colors from. So I'll choose video 1. That's my taxi cabs. And we see that our particles right away have taken on random colors from that layer. So let's move down and look at some other options here. I can pick the particles bigger or smaller. Right now they stay in place, so I don't want them overlapping each other, at least yet. Size variance. Well, this is pretty good because I can mix up the particle size, some large, some small. And the opacity, well, let's just keep them all at full opacity for the moment. And let's go down to the array controls. So right now they're arranged in a grid. You could choose, say, a sphere, and they'll fill up a sphere. You can make them a random box, so within the box they're randomly scattered instead of just fixed to that array. And actually I like that. I like that it's mixed up a little bit. So we'll keep it right now on the random box. The number of particles, of course, we can increase or decrease how many are on each X and Y axis. Z, how many planes of Z, or how many planes of particles deep we have. We'll leave that just a 5. That's fine. I just want a big bunch of particles here. The master scale is the scale of your entire array. It's your master scale. So let's blow this up a little bit. Fill up our frame some. Now I can make actually my particles a bit larger. We can go back to the size. Start filling up our frame. And in fact, I want to change the size quite a bit here amongst them. We'll make a little bit more variance. And we can scale the array as far as how far wide on X or how far wide on Y. How deep we want the planes to be spread apart, at least in Z or Z space if you are watching this outside of the US. Okay, well, we're just filling up with particles. Looks pretty good. I'm going to skip down to the transform particle controls so I can individually start changing them. I don't like that they are all just squares. Actually, for this, I want to make them a little more rectangular. Just kind of gives a little bit different style to it. And while I can rotate them all, we're just going to keep them vertical for now, so undo that. I'm already getting towards an effect that can make a really nice transition here. Going back up to the lights, we talked about that earlier. Right now you see if you look around, it's very, very dark out here. These are black colors. That's only because they are outside of the lights that are built into the filter. But I'm going to turn off, in this case, my built-in lights so they are all their natural, bright, flat colors. I want this to be kind of a 2D/3D effect. Now, right away, I have something I can start animating as a transition here. There's randomly picking up the colors from layer number 1. But here's what I'm going to do. Let's take over here the beginning of our transition, and I'm going to scroll down to Transform System. And I have the global scale. I can move everything I want here, make the global scale of our array. But I can also move the array back and forth. So let's slide this all the way over to the left. Let's make a keyframe. Let's go to the end of our effect over here, the end of our transition. and take our particles. Actually, I think I'm off by a frame here. Let's go back so I can see them. Let's start moving them all the way over this way. It's a long way to go. Hold down the Shift key so I can get there quicker. Shift scrub. Now, if I play these through, it's a little sticky right now. That's a lot of particles I'm generating. Just scrub through. They will wipe right across, and it's very well integrated because the colors are coming from my shots themselves. It's not some arbitrary preset color palette. Bring those right across. And it hides the cut. Now, if it doesn't hide the cut completely, you can see underneath changes a little bit, so there's a little pop. We can just make our particles a little bit larger. Let's make the global scale bigger, or maybe increase the number of particles. Let's see here, number of particles on X here. Just fill it in a little bit more. Maybe disperse them a little bit more. We do have a dispersion subheading. And let's start spreading them out. Maybe spread them out a little more on X. A little bit more interesting. And now when they come across, there we go. Completely hides the cut underneath. That's a really nice 3D looking wipe. What I love about this is I could save this as a preset right now and use the same effect over and over, and it will always be custom to the clips I'm using because it picks up the color of the actual clips in my timeline. So this can go this way. I can duplicate it, bring it over here. Let's just add another quick clip in and make another make another transition here. I'll pick this shot, whatever it is. I think they are with some candles, so that's perfect. And in this case, on this instance, go to the video track and choose track number 2. So it picks up the colors from the GIFs. And this time when they move across, it's the right colors. In fact, I can change this completely, and instead of these keyframes being horizontal, let's just delete those keyframes. Let's make it vertical and move the center up and down. Let's have them drop down. We'll come from the top. Make a keyframe. Come to the end of the transition. Move them down. They come raining down and raining across. And I have a vertical wipe. And if I don't want this many particles, we have a completely new effect. But what I like is, save this as a preset. You can use this over and over without changing all of these values, or even render it out with an alpha channel and create a few custom wipes that you can just use as drag and drop items. So that's it. Boris Continuum Complete Particle Array 3D, used for an intent that you may not have thought it was designed for. So I'm Rob Bernholz. Thanks for sticking with me today, and see you next time.